too. But one of the things that I feel very close to my heart is, what is the point of having a church? And another way that I ask that question is, if all of the churches somehow magically disappeared in Titusville today, what would be missing? What would be missing? I mean, would we have a place for a food pantry? We've got a beautiful food pantry over here. The second and the last Tuesday of the month, they're open from 9:30 until noon, and they do a great job, a wonderful job. They get to know the people they serve and not just hand out food. But if we were to all disappear, there are still other food pantries in town. What about our preschool? Back when they measured these things, this preschool was number 4 in the state for kindergarten readiness. It's an awesome preschool. And Ms. Annie, who's sitting behind the table back there, does a wonderful job with it. But there are other preschools in this town that have nothing to do with churches, and that's absolutely, and they do outstanding work too, great stuff like that. Would it be a place to meet and gather and honor first responders? I hope there are other groups in this community that are honoring our first responders. I take it personally. My dad was a law enforcement officer for 10 years of his life. He was a deputy up in Marion County. It's a big deal. And we should support our law enforcement. And I hope that if all the churches disappeared, there would be people honoring law enforcement, first responders and the like too. I hope that's the case. Don't know. So what do we do here other than play cornhole and eat some really nice pulled pork? Here's a reading from John chapter 20, since we're celebrating post-Easter stuff. Jesus meets with the disciples and says, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, they are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." What does this mean? This means that what we do as a church is we proclaim the forgiveness of sins. That doesn't seem like much in our culture right now because we live in such a relativistic society that the idea of sin can be alien to some people, but at some point we all experience guilt. And at some point we realize that guilt is directly related to our relationship with God. And when Jesus sent his disciples into the world, it was to proclaim that message, the forgiveness of sins, through his life, death, and resurrection. And my friends, this is what the churches in Titusville, when they're functioning correctly, do. And with God's grace and with God's help, this is what we do. And it is because we have been forgiven that we have a marvelous food pantry. It is because we have been forgiven that we've got a wonderful preschool. It is because we have been forgiven that God gives us the grace to have an event like this today and draws people, and the people we love, our first responders and our mayor and everybody else, to it. And this is what we hope to share. So thank you everyone for being a part of this. Thank you for being here. Law enforcement, if you weren't here, this would be terrible. It'd be a private party, and we're glad that's not. So thank you for being here for us. And I'll leave you with that. So, and happy Mother's Day.